Good day, guys. So today I'll be discussing or I'll be sharing to you one of the topics in pharmacy, which is pharmacognosy and plant chemistry. Actually, this is a course. So I will be starting with chapter 1, the general introduction. So back then, in the olden times, they're already using plant as a means of medicine. So one example of tribe which uses medicine or which uses plants in the form of medicine would be the Vodoo tribes. These Vodoo tribes, they are using medicines together with their incantations. So they are dancing, they are singing, and they are using these plants in order to heal the sickness of the people in their tribes. So all throughout the time, the knowledge of drugs are being transmitted from one generation to another. And during the first or early time, they are using or they are transmitting the knowledge on drugs orally. What else? Through the writings or through written informations that they are imprinting in these baked clay tables. What else? They are also using papers. So after baked clay tables, they use papers in order to write all of the informations about plants. They also use these printed herbals, and where you can see already here that there are already parts of the plants, like the flowers, like the leaves, and then the informations about them, maybe on how they should be used, how many pieces of flowers or how many pieces of plants, what will you do with the flower or the plant in order for it to become a medicine. And now, they consider drug as a drug if it's written in a pharmacopoeia or a national formulary. So different countries have different pharmacopoeia. Like for example, you have Indian pharmacopoeia, Japanese pharmacopoeia, British pharmacopoeia, and other pharmacopoeias like the USPNF or the United States Pharmacopoeia and national formularies. So as I have said, drugs cannot be considered as a drug if it's not written in a pharmacopoeia. And the latest way on how we can acquire or we can get knowledge or informations about drugs would be this computerized information or this computerized application on where you could download or you could download this ones and see informations like brand names and generic names, the procedures on how they do some operations. What else? For example, you want or you don't know the appearance of the drug, you can just click the name of the drug and then you can already see the appearance of the drug. You could also calculate those from these types of application. So if you want an in-depth explanation if you want an in-depth explanation of how all of these applications are working, then watch my next video for Medscape application, how to use Medscape, memes, and drugs.co. Next, let's have the definition of pharmacognosy. So pharmacognosy means knowledge of drugs and pharmaceuticals. So this comes from the Greek word pharmakon and gnosis, or sometimes other books use gignosis or gignosko. Pharmakon means drug, and gnosis, gignosko, or gignosis means knowledge. So if you combine them, it is called, or in general, it's called knowledge of drugs, or it's defined as knowledge of drugs and pharmaceuticals. Now we have two terms here that we interchange every time. So you have drugs and medicines. So what are the difference between a drug and a medicine? For drugs, they are substances which act on the body and are used for the prevention, diagnosis, and treatment. Although medicines are also being used to prevent, to diagnose, and to treat diseases, but what's the main difference here? For medicines, these are substances that have definite form and therapeutic use for treatment. What else? They have definite form. So this only means that they have definite dosage form. They also have a well-defined dose. How about drugs? They doesn't have any dosage form and they don't have a definite dose also. Next, your drug, it is an active potent compound, and drugs or all drugs are considered to be as medicines, but medicines or all medicines, all drugs are not medicines, but all medicines are considered as drug. So let's have an example. If you say paracetamol, that means it's a drug. But if you say paracetamol tablet 500 milligram, that means it's a medicine. Let's define the term pharmaceuticals. So pharmaceutics is the science of dosage form design. What about excipients? Excipients are substances which are being formulated along with the active ingredient for the purpose of making a good drug. You cannot make a good medicine if you don't have an active ingredient and an inactive ingredient, which is your excipients. Your excipients, they are also known as inert substances because they doesn't have any therapeutic effect, while your active constituent, they're the one that have therapeutic effect. Next, your drugs, they are being classified as to alphabetical form. So they are being written in dictionaries and pharmacopoeias using alphabetical or arranging them alphabetically. So you have Latin, or it could be arranged alphabetically through Latin or English names. Drugs can also be classified according to their taxonomical classification. So you could classify them as to classes, to orders, to families, genera, and species. For example, you have here Minta peperita linnaeus. So it has many varieties. You have Minta peperita variety of officinalis. This is your white peppermint, and your Minta peperita vulgaris, which is your black peppermint. You also have here another example, which is your Conium maculatum. So this is also known as your hemlock, or in Arabic, this is known as shaukaran. Another example is your Hypericum purpuratum. So from the scientific name alone, you can already or this can already give you a clue on what is the appearance of this Hypericum purpuratum. So let me show you some pictures of these ones. So you have black peppermint and your white peppermint. And see the appearance, see the difference. The only difference lies on the color of these peppermints. And then you have Conium maculatum. So this is also known as your poison hemlock. And this is the appearance. So from the word poison hemlock, it was used as a poison back then by the hierarchies or the higher positions. Next, your St. John's wort. Its scientific name of this one is Hypericum perforatum. So as I have said, from the scientific name, you can already see or you can already have a quick background of the characteristic of the plant. Like for example, you have this perforatum. So as you can see, there are so many holes here in the petals or on the petals of the plant. So that's St. John's wort. Next, you have binomial nomenclature. So this is a term which is used to describe system that uses two names to identify an organism. So you have a genus and a species. And the father of taxonomy is Carolus Linnaeus. That's why if you will be reading some scientific names, you can see their lean. So the lean there means lineage. Next, your drugs could be also classified as to their morphological classification. So we can divide them into two groups. You have organized drug and unorganized drug. You say, or you classify them as organized drug if they are given as a whole, like the whole leaves, the whole stems, the whole roots, the whole trunk, the whole branch of a tree, or the flowers or the fruits of a tree. Then you classify them as organized drug. But when you say unorganized drugs, example of this are the active constituent that you can extract, that you can isolate from the plant. Yan. So like for example, you have your carbohydrates, your tannins, your glycosides, your alkaloids, all of those are being used as drugs and they are classified as unorganized drugs. Next, you can also classify them according to their pharmacological or therapeutic activity. So it doesn't mean that one plant would only classified to have or would only have one pharmacologic or therapeutic category. So like for example, you have your garlic. Your garlic, it's not only classified as an antithrombotic, but it can also be classified as an antihypertensive drug. Next, let's have this, your chemical or biogenetic. So this is a classification according to the most important group of constituent available in the plant. Like for example, you have Glycyrrhiza glabra. Yeah, so Glycyrrhiza glabra, it is a plant which contains many saponins, though this plant could also contain some active constituents like your alkaloids or glycosides, but the most important group of constituent which is in that plant is your saponin. So here are some of the examples of active constituent of plants. So you have Digitalis lanata and Digitalis purpurea. Your Digitalis lanata, this contains digoxin, while your Digitalis purpurea, this contains digitoxin. Both of them are considered to be as a glycoside, specifically a cardiac glycoside. So this is an image of the available dosage form of digoxin in the market. So you have tablet, 250 microgram, that is how potent digoxin is. You also have intravenous and intramuscular solution for injection. And last one would be your elixir. And so elixir is being used for pediatric or also some for geriatric who cannot swallow a tablet already. The only danger here for pediatric is that elixir, it has alcohol content. Yun. So maybe it could affect the brain of those developing human beings, like those pediatric patients. Next one, your Atropa belladonna. So this contains alkaloid. So specific alkaloid that it contains will be your atropine. Yan. So this is the appearance of atropine dosage form which is available in the market. Next, let's have this one. All of these foods, they contain saponin. Yan. So saponin, you can say that these plants contain saponin because when you put them in ethanol, you shake them, they will be developing bubbles. Yan. So you will learn more of that to my next video. Next, let's define drug. So drugs, they are substances with whether natural or synthetic having therapeutic or medicinal properties and chiefly used as medicines or as ingredients in medicines. So these drugs, we could isolate them either from plant or animals, but some we can isolate them from microorganisms, from minerals, etc. Let's have the official definition of a drug. So number one, these are any substances recognized in the official Pharmacopoeia. So as I have said, a drug could not be considered as a drug if it's not in the official Pharmacopoeia or national formulary of a certain nation. Number 2, any substance intended for use in diagnosis, cure, mitigation, treatment, or prevention of diseases in humans or other animals. Number 3, any article other than food intended to affect the structure or any function of the body of the humans or other animals. Number 4, any substance intended for use as a component of such a drug, but not a device or part of a device. So these are the 4 official definition of drugs. Next, let's have the sources of drugs. So we have plant, a drug coming from plant, a drug coming from an animal, a drug coming from a microbe, and those synthetic drugs. So let's have the different examples of drug which can be isolated from plants. So you have here digoxin. Digoxin is an active constituent of digitalis, and you can isolate digoxin from the leaves of digitalis. And digoxin is being used for congestive heart failure. Next, how about quinine? It's coming from cinchona plant, specifically from the bark of the cinchona plant, and quinine, it is being used as a treatment or as a cure for malaria. Next one, morphine. It's coming from the fruit of opium, which is being used as an analgesic. So morphine, it is the mother of all analgesic, and it is the last resort analgesic to kill the pain of cancer patient. Last one, an anticholinesterase could be isolated from the seed of eserine, and it can be used as a treatment of myasthenia gravis. Other plant source would be your cinchona bark, which contains quinine, and not quinine, your quinidine. Your quinidine, it is being used as an antiarrhythmic drug and also as a cure for malaria. Next, your purple foxglove, which contains digitalis and which is being used as cardiotonic. Last, your poppy plant or opium plant, or scientific name Papaver somniferum. The trade name of that one is paregoric morphine codeine. Uses antidiarrheal, analgesic. Your codeine, it's an analgesic and it has an antitussive property. So it's being incorporated in those drugs that are being used for coughs. Next, your Nicotiana tabacum or your Nicotiana tabacum. This is a plant on where you can isolate your nicotine. Nicotiana tabacum binds to nicotinic receptor so that it will become a stimulant of the CNS. Next, tropabelladonna. It is an anticholinergic drug and it is being used in organophosphate poisoning. And then last one, your opium seed. You can isolate morphine, which is used as an analgesic, so it's already repeated. So next, let's have the way on how to prepare morphine. So first, you need to get you need to get opium poppy, and then you dry the opium. Next, you extract the morphine, and then use the correct dosage form in order to produce a good pharmaceutical preparation. Other drugs would be your vinca rosea, which contains vinca alkaloids. Example of vinca alkaloids would be your vincristine and your vinblastine, which are being used for cancer. Now, your vinca rosea, it is not being used already by person, but it's still being used by animals. Next, your digitalis purpurea or your foxglove, your cinchona, which contains quinine, which is being used for malaria, and then Rauwolfia serpentina, which contains reserpidine or reserpine, which is being used as an antihypertensive agent. Animal source, on the other hand, you have here your leech. That's the appearance of leech, and you can isolate heparin from that. Next, you have your pork pancreas. So, what can you isolate from the pancreas? You can get insulin from that. Next, your thyroid. What can you get from that? You can get thyroxine. Liver extract, you can get vitamin B12, cod liver oil, and an antitoxic serum. Another, from pancreas of the cow and pancreas of the pork, you can isolate insulin, which is an anti-diabetic hormone. So it helps glucose to enter the cell. Next, your stomach of cow. This contains pepsin, which is a digestive hormone, so it helps in digestion. Thyroid gland of animals. This contains thyroid, most specifically a thyroid hormone, which is responsible for metabolism. Next, microorganism source. So you have, or it could either be a bacteria, a fungi, or a mold. Yun. So we have here penicillin. Penicillin, the microorganism on where you get penicillin is your Penicillium notatum. Penicillium notatum is a mold. Now, this penicillin, it can kill bacteria. Next one, chloramphenicol. This comes from Streptomyces venezuelae. Griseofulvine comes from Penicillium griseofulvum. Streptomycin comes from Streptomyces griseus, and neomycin comes from Streptomyces fradii. Now, penicillin is an antibacterial. Together with your chloramphenicol, streptomycin, and neomycin. Now, your griseofulvine, it is an antifungal drug. Streptomycin, specifically, it's an anti-tubercular drug. Next, let's go now to mineral source. So, you have ferrosulfate, which is being used for anemia. Your magnesium sulfate, which is being used as purgative. Your sodium bicarbonate, which is being used as an antacid. And aluminum hydroxide, which is being used also as an antacid. Now, if you are familiar with Malox, your Malox, it's a combination of aluminum hydroxide and magnesium hydroxide. Now, they are combined together because of their side effect. Aluminum hydroxide can cause constipation. Your magnesium hydroxide, it can cause diarrhea. When you combine them, there will be an alteration of the side effect of the two. So it's better if you combine aluminum hydroxide and magnesium hydroxide. Another would be your milk of magnesia, which is used as an antacid and laxative. Your zinc, which is used as a sunscreen and skin protectant. Your gold, which can be used as an anti-inflammatory agent, most specifically to those persons who have rheumatoid arthritis. Next, what is the advantage of using synthetic products? So number one, quality can be controlled. Yes, because if a pharmacist is producing or manufacturing a drug, it makes sure that the manufacturing company has a quality control department that sees to it that every drug that are being produced is of quality. Next, process is easier and cheaper, more potent and safer, and it can be used, or synthetic drugs are being produced in a large scale production. Example of synthetic products would be your meperidine, trade name Demerol. It is classified as an analgesic. Next, your diphenoxylate, trade name Lomotil. It's being used as antidiarrheal. Your cotrimoxazole, trade name Septra. This is an anti-infective sulfonamide, and it's used in the treatment of urinary tract infection. How about semi-synthetic drugs? Example is your atropine bromide. What else? Your penicillin. There are so many kinds of penicillin. They have the same structure, the basic structure of penicillin, but the only thing which is changing on the structure of penicillin is the R side chain. Drugs could also be produced through genetic engineering. So example would be your hepatitis B vaccine and your insulin. So guys, that's the end of this topic. So the next topic that I'll be explaining would be the history of the development of pharmacognosy. And in order for you to have an information about this one, please subscribe and watch my next video about this topic. Bye!